Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode here on the MIgardener channel. So what I'm going to be doing today is answering two of the most commonly asked questions here on the MIgardener channel. And that is from this bag right here. A lot of you probably know what I'm talking about, and I'm glad that a lot of you know what I'm talking about here. This is Trifecta Plus, and that ties into the two commonly asked questions is, Luke, what is Trifecta Plus and how do I use it? So in this episode, I'm going to talk about what it is and how to use it. So about 4 years ago, before I started the MIgardener channel, I was growing tomatoes and I was growing some other vegetables, and I was really unhappy with how the fertilizers that I was using were not giving me the results that I was hoping for. And they were kind of just and you know what I'm talking about, where the results are but you see other people's gardens and you're like, wow, that's really great. And then you see other people's gardens, you're like, that is impossible. How do I get that? And that is because a lot of the fertilizers are missing crucial components. They have something that's great, but they are missing something that's like also equally as great. And so I set out to do something that I really thought was kind of important for my garden, because I believe that growing food is the most important thing we need to be doing nowadays. And so I set out to basically make a fertilizer that would fit my needs. And that was something that also built the soil as well as fed my plants, because there was a fertilizer here that I would be using that would feed my plants would go gangbusters, and then they would crash and burn because the soil itself was not being built up. And then there was times where I would have a nutrient deficiency and I would be using this other that was really slow acting, and I would find that the plants just could not take up the nutrients enough to get out of this stunted state, and they would be really stunted their entire year. And here in Michigan, that's so crucial to have a really successful start and a really successful finish. And so throughout that entire growing season, you have to be doing things right. Otherwise, you're going to have a less than impressive harvest. And so what I did is I just started combining stuff. I just started combining and testing and doing things that I thought would be really crucial on the fast acting side and the slow acting side. And so, or the slow release side. And so over the course of 4 years, I have produced now what has been coming to be called Trifecta Plus. It is hands down the best fertilizer I have ever used. And so many people, you ask them, I mean, there are probably people that are willing to vouch for me right on this video in the comment section. Just check. There are so many people that say this is the best fertilizer I have ever used. And I don't like to call it a fertilizer because of the fact that fertilizer holds a stigma. So what I like to call it is the ultimate soil supercharger. And that I have it right on the bag because that is what I love to call it, because it honestly is. What Trifecta Plus has is micronutrients to fill all those micronutrient needs that are not being covered by the macronutrient companies that just put out the NPK. So what I've done is I've combined the micronutrients and a combination of several of those different mixes of trace minerals, and then I've also mixed in a very good formula of fast acting stuff like blood meal and feather meal and stuff like that is very plant available, that's going to give you those boosts right away. The next thing that I've done is I've also added the beneficial fungi and the beneficial bacteria, because it's going to give your soil that extra life that is found in soil, but it's going to give you more of it. So soil is comprised of the micronutrients, the beneficial bacteria, and the beneficial fungi. And that ties into what I was saying earlier about feeding the soil. Because I talk about here all the time how the soil is so crucial to having a healthy plant. And the healthier the soil, the healthier the plant. They kind of go together. And so what Trifecta Plus does is it gives you all the things you need to feed the soil, all the while feeding the plant, which is something that I've never seen done before. And it really does make a huge difference, because of the fact that when you first use Trifecta Plus, you're going to see immediate results that are really impressive, but it's not going to crash and burn and need to be reapplied, because what happens is that those slow release fertilizers, they take a while for the microorganisms to break them down and make them plant available. And so while the fast-acting nutrients are working their magic, in the background, there's also nutrients that are kind of working their way up to being plant available. And so all season long, you have nutrients that are plant available. All the while, those micronutrients and things are feeding the bacteria that are growing and colonizing in your soil. And it also has stuff like rock gypsum, which breaks up clay soil, makes it looser so that micronutrients have more space to thrive and grow. And the beneficial fungi like mycorrhiza, they can come in, they can colonize those roots and increase your root base. And what that does is it also helps with watering. You'll find that you actually have to water less when you're using Trifecta Plus, because once the mycorrhiza colonize the roots, it actually enhances the root mass of your plant, which allows more water absorption. It allows for better nutrient uptake, and it also supports the plant so it's not as fast to top over. It makes a stronger, healthier plant in the end. Now what I want to talk about is the bags here. The bags themselves are a BPA-free bag. I've gone the extra mile to pack them in a BPA-free bag so that there's no chemicals leaching into the Trifecta. They are basically bags that people pack coffee beans in. The next thing is that it's resealable, because I cannot tell you how many times I've opened up a bag of fertilizer, not used it all, and then put it back in the garage, only to have it dump out because there's no sealing zipper. So I have ones that have zippers on them. And then I also have basically very clear instructions, because I cannot tell you how many times I've bought a fertilizer, I'm like, okay, so do I just use the same amount for everything? And so basically I have some pretty, it's not War and Peace, it's not the longest novel you've ever read, but it's basically broken down into 3 sections. It's going to be easy for you to gauge how much to use per plant, or based on the plant you're growing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually bring you all in close, and I'm going to plant, because I've had this question a lot as well. How do I use Trifecta Plus? And it can be used with existing plants. I've got some beautiful fruit bushes here, and I've also got some tomato plants here that I need to get one in this pot here because it's my special tomato that I'm growing out for seed. So I need to get that in a pot as well. But before I start, I wanted to talk about really quick the reason why I'm using a fruit tree and a tomato plant. And it's because I want to express that I'm covering 3 different little topics here. One is that you can fertilize an existing plant. You can fertilize when you're planting. And then the third thing is that you can fertilize both fruit and vegetable. And you can also use it on shrubs and stuff as well. Because what a lot of people come up with is, well, what type of mycorrhiza should I be using for vegetables? Because some fertilizers have mycorrhiza, but they don't have both endo and ecto mycorrhiza. And anyone that's really familiar with mycorrhiza fungi, and that is that only one type of mycorrhiza can colonize shrubs and trees and perennials, and the other type of mycorrhiza can colonize the tomatoes, the lettuce, the annuals. So I've added both in there so that it really is an all-purpose fertilizer that anything can benefit from. All right, so here we go. We're going to simply rip. We have heat sealed these so they won't spill in transit. And that's what's really nice about that. But then you have a zipper that you can just open up here, access your Trifecta. Check that out. Beautiful stuff, very beautiful. And oh man, it smells so earthy. I just wish you could smell it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to plant this tomato first. And I'm going to show you how I like to plant. So I like to prepare my hole here. I like to dig it nice and deep. And what I like to do is I like to take my Trifecta. So we're going to look on the back here, and the amount that we use for tomatoes and corn, basically heavy feeders. Heavy feeders require 1 pound per 15 square feet, or a 1/4 cup each plant. And that is going to give you enough nutrients to literally last you all season. It won't hurt if you add it again. If you want to top dress later on in the season, you feel it's necessary, go for it. It's organic. It's not going to hurt. I've started seedlings with this stuff. It's unbelievable. And so what we're going, I mean, obviously when I start seedlings, it's a little more diluted. It's not full strength, but still, what we're going to do is just throw in a 1/4 cup. There we go, 1/4 cup. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to mix this up here. All right. Just mix it in with the planting hole right where the roots are going to be. That way, the roots are coming in contact with everything that they're needing. They're going to come in contact with the bacteria. They're going to come in contact with the mycorrhiza. And they're going to come in contact with the nutrients as well that are fast acting. So they're going to get that boost while still creating that symbiotic relationship. And you don't need to worry about the fertilizer leaching out because of the fact that it is organic. It's not water soluble. There are some water soluble components to Trifecta Plus, but for the most part, it's not going to run out. You're not going to have to worry about the waterways being polluted by runoff. It's going to stay right in the soil, right next to the plant where it belongs. I'm going to give that a little tamp down, and then I'm just going to give that a little stake up because it's looking like it needs it. So that is done. I'm just going to give that a quick water in, and pretty much that's it. I mean, that's honestly it. You don't have to do anything else, and it's good for the entire season. If you want, you can come by later and give it a little top dressing if you wish. It's not going to hurt it, like I said. So this is done. So basically planting. You can also, I thought I mentioned really quick, you can also, if you want, like for instance, to plant lettuce, let's say, and you're planting lettuce from seed, you can actually, imagine this is a clean slate, you can actually take and you can spread the suggested amount for, for something like, let's say, cucumbers. I would probably recommend lettuce fitting in the cucumbers. That's 1 pound per 25 square feet. And so you're going to just kind of spread that 1 pound over that given space, and you're going to plant your seeds right in the soil, and that way they're coming in contact with it as well. So you can start your seeds right in the soil. You don't have to do it at transplanting. So if you're planting something like radishes, it's better to plant outside. Just sprinkle it in the space where you're planting. All right, next we're going to talk about fertilizing an existing plant here. And we're going to just sprinkle the trifecta right around the base of the plant, all around the base of the plant. It's not going to burn the leaves. It's not going to harm anything if it gets on there. And then what you want to do is you want to just take a rake and rough it in. Not a rake, but like a little hand, one of those little hand rake things, or a shovel, or even a fork. I've seen people rake it in with. You just want to rough it in to the soil so that it doesn't just run away from the plant, because you want it to stick right next to those roots. So just give it a quick rough in, and be careful of the top roots on the top of the soil, but just work it into about the top inch of soil there. And then what you're going to want to do is then you're going to water very thoroughly, and that's going to actually take the nutrients and they're going to work down into the soil over time. So there you go. I hope you all enjoyed. Since we didn't use it all, we're just going to take the convenient little zipper here, zip it back up, and no more spilling, yay. So yeah, definitely recommend checking it out. MIgardener.com/store. You can find it there. We sell it in 2 and 3 pound bags. It will last you a very long time, I'm telling you what. And until next episode, I will talk to you all later. This is Luke from the MIgardener channel. Remember to grow big or go home, and I'll catch you all later. See ya. Bye.